All right, good afternoon, everybody. This is the Mayor's Ad Hoc Property Committee meeting of Thursday, November 3rd, 2022. I'm going to start off with introductions since we have such a full house in here. We'll start off with, I'll start and we'll go around the table and we'll talk about whether your evaluation committee, the staff representation, we want to know who the applicant is. And so that way we know who's involved in the discussion. If you have people that are here that are going to be involved in your application, they should be introduced, but the public is here to observe. And so then we'll know who's who. And I'll just start with me. I'm Allison Wright, Commissioner of District 4. I'm the chair as of the last meeting. Thank you, Patrick, for nominating me. I'm also of the property committee. It's Patrick and I. And then for the evaluation committee on this process, I'm just a member of the evaluation team.
Josh Edwards, I'm one of the assistant managers at the county. So good to see you all in person. I'm glad we could be here today. I'm the staff liaison from the manager's office to the property committee, but I'm not on the scoring committee.
Patrick Davenport, District 1 Commissioner. Thank you everybody for being here. Look forward to seeing the presentation.
And he's also on the evaluation committee.
I'm also
It's property committee.
all the way through.
Yes.
That's right. I'm Gwen Looney, and I'm really just a volunteer partner in this. I love the Taylor Grady House, and I couldn't have been more happy when I learned that they were interested in it.
I'm Lee Epting. I guess I'm the applicant for Epting Events.
I'm Tommy Valentine. I'm the Executive Director of Historic Athens. We have some of our Historic Athens staff here, and if successful, Epting has indicated that we would be serving as kind of house management and services on the site.
I'm Angel Helmley. I work for Athens-Clarke County Central Services Department, and I'm also an evaluation member.
I'm Beth Smith. I work for Central Services Facilities Management, and I'm also evaluation member.
Gavin Hassmer, I'm the interim director for Central Services, and as Assistant Manager Edwards said, I'm more of a staff liaison representing the department.
I'm Cynthia Lambright, and I'm the executive assistant for the manager's office. I'm just here to support.
And technology.
And let me introduce Patty Whitehead, who is with the Justice and
Memories.
thank you, memory team that the mayor appointed, and has been working with Historic Athens with her goals for a long time. So we're glad to have her as a partner also. Tammy Gillen of Athens Regional Medical Center, now Piedmont, was not able to be here, but she is the president of the Junior League of Athens Sustainers. So she is their spokesperson and responsible person for this. So we've been working with her a lot, but she was called it though. I got a message just this morning that she had a meeting she could not miss.
Hospitals. Okay, Patrick, I'm not sure if the presentation's going up there. Yeah. So at this point, the agenda, the full agenda is a presentation by and discussion with the applicant of the Taylor Grady House lease. So I think I'm going to just turn it over to the applicants.
Okay.
To
All right, let's go.
presentation, then we'll have a question and answer.
Well, we appreciate all of you coming together. We've had a hard time going back and forth. I know it took a lot of extra effort to have another meeting today, and we appreciate that. And when I get to, I'm going to say some quick things. I'm going to turn it over to these other people because I'll start telling stories and we'll be here all day, and we can't have that. What we are looking forward to is a partnership between Epting Events, Historic Athens, and the ACC. And I want to emphasize a partnership into bringing the Taylor Grady House back for the Athens community. We don't want it to go away. We've had a long history here, and we think it has great opportunities to expand what it's done. Now, further than that, we're not introducing anybody else. We got everybody introduced?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
We can refer to who the team was in just a second.
Oh, okay, all right, now, well, I'm gonna read this because otherwise I'll get going. For over 50 years, the Junior League and the citizens of Athens, along with the AC, have ACC have spent blood, sweat, and tears and a lot of money in saving the Taylor Grady. It is the only house in Athens that is historical, national historic landmark on the landmark. It's the only one we have in Athens. And when it came about that the junior league could no longer, keep it going, the way I got involved was I had a heart attack because we had worked so hard. All of us have worked so hard for so many years, older than most of you, a lot of you here, to save this place and use it for Athens. And the furniture and everything, it was fixing to go away. And so I got involved. I went to Historic Athens and tried to say, why aren't you guys taking it on? Well, it has to do with dollars and cents. And as you know, young madam, and I started saying young lady, she is young lady, but compared to me, but historic properties, you got how many?
We got 225.
200 and something in Athens to keep up. I assure you, I'm not going in for financial gain. When you take a historic property, you have to have a passion for it. You have to have a reason bigger than just keeping that building up. So that is the main thing that I got involved, to keep that collection together and keep the house together and use it for the community. It has so much more potential than what it has been used for and could be. And we'll get into that, what we want to do a little bit later. So basically, that's the reason I was involved, and I needed help. And that's when I went to Tommy and I said, well, if we partnership, maybe we'll put some money, we'll start raising money for it. And one thing we'll talk about later is that we want to do is to build an endowment for it. Build up money so that we don't have this problem down the road. That it has something to keep it going, and that's one of the things that we will push, and have already started collecting money, assuming that we can make this partnership work with all of us. So anyway, you can rattle on.
So
I
anyway,
quit.
that's a good. So anyway, well, first of all, I just want to say that it's a pleasure to be with you. It's also a bit of a surprise to find ourselves here just a few months later. Only a few years ago, I think it's the year before COVID, we do our annual preservation awards, those big white and blue banners you see around town. And we had just awarded the Junior League with their stewardship award, which is one of the highest awards we get for someone who's been doing it for a very long time. So we were as shocked as Lee was when they stepped back, and we felt the need to run into that breach. When we were doing the field research on it, though, when we were calling other similar institutions, when we were looking at the prices of it, we had people calling us saying, oh, it's going to be such a cash cow. And the more we looked at it, especially with the need to manage it, as we know from operating the fire hall as your collaborator and the welcome center as your collaborator, you have to staff a building. You can't just, run the AC. That's not enough. Especially a building like this has a real potential to be a community hub for the surrounding areas, to be an educational asset to Athens. We didn't want to do anything halfway. And so we had ruled it out. We had talked to our board. We had ruled it out in every area. And then Lee unruled it out for us. Particularly, he called us on a Wednesday. We said the soonest we could meet was the next Monday. Hope and I were out at lunch, and we felt a presence, and we looked through the plate glass window, and there was Lee ready to talk to us about getting us in this room. So what we're looking at here is an uncommon arrangement for this opportunity in Athens, but not uncommon nationally or internationally. I know those of us that have looked at public administration internationally know how common public-private partnerships are at taking on unique challenges. And since this isn't a cash cow, we need to look at unique community-driven collaboration to make this what it can be. So the proposal that you have in front of you represents our best effort to get that right. It's going to be a labor of love. It's also going to be something that's going to grow and change over time. But what we envision is this. The lessee, Epting Events, is going to help be the guiding spirit on how we approach this property, how we further rehabilitate this property in keeping with best preservation practices, how we bring this property to further life for Athens. Then beyond that, what you've seen in the arrangement is they are commissioning through Historic Athens a position that has great community benefit called the Director of Preservation and Properties. 80% of that person's time is going to be on house management. And so that means curating, managing, and expanding the decorative collection in there, which currently is a once-in-a-lifetime collection. You'll never get that collection together again if we don't take good care of it. They'll be drawing on the same kind of principles and properties that we use for, as you know, we're ACC's designee in charge of the Ware Linden decorative collection, the Church Waddle decorative collection. So we're bringing that expertise to bear. Beyond that, though, the goal is to, building, you don't just preserve buildings for the heck of it. You want them to have a use. And so our goal is to give this a use. That means coordinating with CCSD for more field trips. That means looking at a fuller interpretation of the house and its full history. That means offering it as community space for community meetings. I was just contacted this week by a local neighborhood association in the area that would love to have their neighborhood association meetings at this house. And so we see an opportunity for it to be a hub. We're quite cognizant of some of the opportunities we have to be good neighbors, whether we're talking about noise or cutoff times or other ways we can really make this an accountable and professional operation. And I think that, Gwen, this is the full proposal you have in front of me?
Yes,
Can you hand me the attachments in the back of the pages? There's one thing I want to pass around in particular.
right.
Yeah, just that section, that would be great. And I will promise I'll get it right back to you.
No, I'm not worried.
I just, one thing to keep in mind as we were weighing this option, and for those of you with the RFP in front of you, I'll refer to the page. So as you go through these letters of acknowledgement, you can see whether it's the CVB, their discussions of what it's been like to work with us, Andrew Saunders at ACC about what it's like to be work with us, Dee Dee Dunphy at the Linden House, what it's been like to work with us, Classic Center, Burton & Burton, Advantage, ACCA, and so on. As you're going through this, just know that both of us have reputations to protect. We wouldn't be going into this unless we were prepared to do it right. And also, I know that as fun as it is to convene meetings like this, I know that you probably prefer this be the last one you have to do for a while for this property. And so this is, I was hoping to see it. I know it's one of the attachments, but
What?
the
The
picture
letter?
of Lee, the picture of Lee.
Yeah, okay.
I just, one thing, if you haven't seen it,
Good Lord.
the day after, so the day after we were looking at this, Jody Gratian, who also works with you all through ACC as the person who oversees our Hands on Historic Athens initiative, happened to be going through our files, deaccessioning some old paperwork. And I kid you not, the next day she came across this magazine from 1977. It's this weird
Isn't that
coincidence.
wonderful? Love story.
But it features and even younger than he currently looks, Lee Epting in the 70s, serving food at the Taylor Grady House. So, and by the way, in the adjoining page, he talks about what it's like to work with us. So we've been in this business for a long time. We feel like we're the right steward for it. The last thing I want to say is, in addition to taking your questions and input today, the word collaboration keeps coming up. It may be, Commissioner, that one of your constituents has an idea for a use of the place. It may be that you all are aware of community organizations in need of, easy to access, easy to park. God knows that's hard in Athens, places to come together. We want to tell the full story of this place in a way that brings the community better together. We also want to use this as a place to bring together different types of community organizations. That's one of the reasons we're so excited at the opportunity to work with Hattie here and to provide some real space and infrastructure as she seeks to develop another interpretive space to tell a fuller story of Athens. So that's, I did want to acknowledge the team that you see here will all be part of this. We work well as a team. That's Caitlin, who works at our Welcome Center, Michelle at our Welcome Center, Hope, who's our Director of Engagement African American Heritage, who's been critical to the development of this, and then Jody Gratian oversees Hands on Historic Athens.
Alex Sampson.
And I'm sorry, Alex.
I was
He's
gonna,
not with that group, but he's been helping us.
yeah. Alex has worked with the Junior League on all the thorough inventory and classification of all the pieces. And that's part of the way that we came up with our estimate on the cost of repairs. So it didn't just come out of the blue. It came from looking at each one of the pieces that we have to look at. I'm so envious of you because you have this huge thing that happened and that you didn't expect, kind of, that, And all of a sudden, you've got the two most credible and established and recognized in this community for these qualities that you need. And so, I'm really excited as a community member that we're here. And it's your turn. We were so excited about knowing what you want to know and now we, okay.
Yeah, and this is helpful for us because, like you say, the paper, you've met, you've been talking, you've been brainstorming, you've been teaming up, then you put it on paper, then we get paper. And now we're back to being able to talk about different parts of that paper. And I'm not sure what question I was going to ask, but I was just going to start off with one. And if I stole somebody's question, I'm sure there's, anyway, but well, for me, as far as reading it and understanding the private part of the team and the public part of the team, and you have a community benefits agreement.
That's right.
And I guess I would be interested in learning how your partnership as presented is going to get the community outreach and the diversity of the different types of people we have in our community versus me coming to you with a constituent who needs a place. How are people in the community going to be engaged and use a facility that we have SPLOST money that has been part of keeping it up, but yet has not yet been, this is everybody's.
Right.
So tell us what you think about how that would move forward.
Gwen?
Never before has the Taylor Grady House really reached out to the community on all different levels. They haven't had that capacity for one thing. They just had the fancy upstairs. But our vision is that the first floor will become an opportunity for us to do limited meetings for small communities, for families, that we can expand through a museum quality floor dedicated to the full history of Taylor Grady, showing and our commitment to Hattie is partially we're exploiting our relationship, we hope, so that the Black community will know that we're really sincere and that we want all the people in this community to use that house to see it as theirs. And we're going to need to have big events that cost some money, but we believe there will be plenty of time and ways of discounting use of the house when it gets closer to different days or regular use. That will be an expansion, a major expansion of the vision of that house.
May I add just a note here?
Sure.
So I think one of the easiest ways to answer what we intend to do is by talking about some of the opportunities we've already taken through our organization. So these days, Historic Athens has within our orbit about 12,000 people across our dues-paying members, our online subscribers, our followers, et cetera. And what we've done with that, especially over the last 4 years, is expand our educational access, expand our public programming, whether that's our usually standing room only events that are currently happening monthly at the Linen House, whether it's our 52-week history initiative that was written about this week in Red and Black that Hope is curating. Even Hope's position is new, this Director of Engagement in African American Heritage, and it came about as a result of a seed grant from the National Trust for Historic Preservation because they felt that we were doing cutting edge work on a national level. So, you know, our formal designation as a 501c3 that earned that community benefit agreement, we're not just a preservation nonprofit, we're designated as an education and advocacy group. And we take that education portion of that extremely, extremely seriously. So, Commissioner, I think that being proactive is a key part of it. Being receptive is a key part of it. I think a lot of good ideas are going to come up as people start getting in this space. We really want docent-led tours. And then also when we're talking about things we've done that we want to mirror here, I want to talk about Michelle and Caitlin's approach to the Welcome Center at the Church Waddle Brumby House. You know, that was the first project we did as an organization that brought us together, thanks to the very cutting edge visitor experience that visitors to that Welcome Center enjoy now. We've moved to daily tours, hundreds of tours annually, over 9,000 visits annually to that site. And word of mouth is extremely, extremely strong. And not only are we doing, I think, what the base expectations of what a visitor center would do or what a house museum would do, but take, for example, the innovation that was required during COVID. Michelle led us to an online system where folks could ask questions digitally to us if they were visiting the city, and our average response time was under 30 seconds for questions submitted through that site. So we're going to be looking at every means, digitally, analog, or otherwise, to bring people into the space. And just as we do with our fire hall, our fire hall has become a popular destination, sometimes pro bono rent, sometimes private events. We look for the right balance to sustain that space. But we bring a lot of community groups in there that wouldn't have access to other spaces. And that's what we want to use this space for, again, is bringing people in. There's no doubt that we'll need to raise revenue to sustain it throughout the year, and that's where those large events come in. But we're not viewing this as Athens' next hottest wedding venue, although we don't mind if that word gets around. But we're viewing this as an educational asset to Athens.
So do you see that the expansion of what you do in the fire hall, that this space for your things that you do there could move there and be bigger?
It's a great question. So, the fire...
Or expansive.
Yeah. So I think that the fire hall affords us the ability to run hands-on and a lot of our key education advocacy activities. It's also frequently rented and is cited for public use for us. I do think that it would be a different part of what we do. But I do, I couldn't complete a sentence earlier, which is rare for me because I complete too many sentences. I mentioned 80% earlier. I said 80% of the time is spent on house management. I said that this position that's being created here between our two. The additional 20% is going to be focused on two types of preservation activities that other communities currently enjoy that we don't. Georgia Trend magazine recently wrote about some of the revolving fund activities that are transforming historic preservation affordable housing in Savannah. Right now, we lack a robust easement program here in Athens. We lack a robust revolving fund program in Athens. So as part of this arrangement, we have deemed that 20% of this staff member's time is going to be dedicated to advancing that work in this community as well. So that speaks to the broader community benefit. I think that, we're already using the fire hall to its maximum capacity, but I think this space will allow us to extend our programming in the same way that having routine access to the Linden House Auditorium or other places like that lets us expand what we do.
Right. We believe that opening up with new services, will be news in this community, and it will be a good response because this house carries with it a huge love, and the community loves this house. So I think that they'll be delighted that it's more accessible to them. Small conferences, we're talking all kinds of different uses.
One of my main objectives is I'm a hands-on. I don't. Y'all talk about all this kind of stuff and all these committees and this kind. I just say you got to build it, go build it. Let's do it. And let's go. Downstairs in this house has never been anything except an apartment and storage. What this house has is the summer dining room, like the president's house. There's a summer dining room downstairs. It has servants' quarters that original to the house downstairs. It has the original out kitchen, which is unheard of in Athens. Outbuilding's the first thing to go. All we got to do is put the big fireplace in. I had one in my house. I cook in it all the time. We have the smokehouse out there, and we've got other plans. But this facility downstairs allows you to have something besides an upstairs fancy, cocktail party, museum type thing. It brings in if you go to Downton Abbey's upstairs, downstairs, it tells the history. Biltmore House, if you go up there, the tours of the servants' quarters is more now exciting for people to see what really went on behind the scenes and how that house operated. How this house was built and how it ran from its beginning all the way through now by restoring this downstairs and getting involved in that and bringing it back to life, gives so many more opportunities to do that. On the hill, my place, I've got a weaving house and I've got a doctor's office and I got all this. So we can bring that to the Taylor Gray house and show the whole story. And it's gonna be exciting. It's just new activities that everybody's excited about doing. So that's what, I will have that downstairs decorated, outfitted, and ready to operate the day you guys rebuild the chimney in there in this, in the fireplace for me. As soon as y'all get that done, I will have it ready to decorate and operate and cook them.
You know,
Yeah.
collaboration really, our vision is dependent upon your support of it and your sharing of that.
All right. Next question there, or, go ahead.
I have a question. On page 17 of the proposal, you make the statement that due to your tight schedule for changing out caterers and events, there may be emergencies that require immediate response from ACC Gov. A reputation for being able to operate reliability is crucial to the reputation of this type of facility. My question is, what do you call an emergency and what do you call immediate response?
Right.
I think the events experts probably have a more precise answer. I'll just mention that sustaining this property and investing in this property is going to require revenue. We understand that. Having a staff person manage it is going to require revenue. We understand that. And, you know, given what this building is, the best way to do that is to have large scale events. You all have always met that test for us. You know, even things, you know, when Historic Athens is having an Avid bookshop signing in the basement of the fire hall, your offices have been phenomenal. One time there was, you would come on, I think on a Wednesday to do an interior water filtration repair. Without warning, the night before it started leaking. We knew we had Avid in there the next day, and Avid never knew anything went wrong. And so I think that's in there because it's an expectation, but it's been an expectation you all have encouraged us to have because you deliver there. I don't think we're expecting you to wave a magic wand. We know that things take time, but we just know that
You're important to us.
yeah. And you know, if we book somebody for their wedding and they've got 200 guests or something like that, they're going to expect us to be able to turn around and open the door.
Turn on the air conditioning
Yeah.
or the heat or
Yeah.
whatever.
Next, and this is from Holt, staff and evaluation.
I got a list. It's a good question. Okay, how are you going to mitigate traffic noise for those that to respect the neighbors, who live in that community? Also, follow up, and I don't have my packet with me, I brought the wrong folder, but yet, there was a mention of a bus. How is that going to, for transportation for large events and parking? How is that gonna work throughout the neighborhoods as well?
I'll let you talk about the noise thing, but, in terms, I got a call yesterday, from the next door neighbor, the doctor's building. And they say that's closing, is in sale right now. And then he says, he sees absolutely, he's talked to the future owners and the existing ones. That parking is available to us. They will get us something in writing on that. But that parking is available. There's nobody there on the weekends. There's nobody there after 5 o'clock. And it has always worked, and it's been a great partnership with them. It helps not only us, but the town and gown. And I want to emphasize that as far as I'm concerned, this is a project that I would hope ACC puts all together. Town and gown and Taylor Grady House is really one property, and it needs to work together. And we understand their issues, and we will adhere to and all the noise ordinances and the things that are in there. And if I never had to listen, this is off the record.
No.
That was on the record. If I never had to listen to Brick House again, it would be okay to me. But no, we will. But it is, anytime that Epping has had an event there, we have, and designed an event there, we have pushed that the music goes in a certain direction. It's how you do the bands. It's which way you don't do it just for the client or for the band. You certainly don't do it for the band's best interest. You do it for everybody's best interest. So how you put the band, whether you put the tent in the front yard, that we've had that happen, done the weddings up there. There are 1,000 different ways. There are decibels that I insist on our parties that you don't go over certain decibels. And there are machines that can do that. And I've told many bands, now that we would have control of the place if we got it, then we would demand, even if it's another caterer and another group coming in there, that we would demand that you adhere to these things. And
Is that a machine that you currently use at each of the events that you've had at Taylor Grady?
we have not used it at the Taylor Grady House. I've used it in Atlanta and places because we haven't done that many. I mean, it's been years since they invented this machine. It's been 3 years that nothing's really happened over there.
It's ready to go, and then that other tenants
Yes,
would.
and I just learned about this, I just always go to the band and say, I'm not having it, you turn it down, and I'm running this show, or you're out of here. And because bands get involved, they think they're the most important thing that's happening. And they're not. And they drive the old folks off, they go home, we out of here, So we have learned how to deal with that, and having control of the place, we can demand that those kind of things are adhered to. We certainly adhere to all the ordinances and things like that.
Right.
But we can do more than that.
As far as the van is concerned that we talk about, the Welcome Center has a beautiful van that they have used. And if we ever got to a point where we've been counting the parking spaces at next door, and there are over 100 that are empty during the day. So they're overparked over there. And but if we ever needed that, we know that we have this partnership is an amazing partnership of all the tourism and the event destinations in Athens. CVB is our partner and has been for some time. Classic Center says that they have a lot of programs that are real small, and they come in when they have big things and they can't make room for them, that they would be glad to recommend us. And I think it's important that you know that Lee will be our preferred caterer, but we by no means to limit it to Lee FD. We want the whole community to know that they can have their event there.
Yeah, and so when you say when we, who is your we?
At them.
It's the royal way.
Yeah,
I mean, right, so
So-
you're working with.
Now, I'm a supporter.
I hear, yeah, but I'm just saying, when
Mhm.
we use other caterers, I'm wondering who.
Caterer
Can I
grade.
comment? Because
Yeah.
I think that's a really great point down the middle. So I think it's worth pointing out that Prince is increasingly urbanized. We're seeing that, right? We're seeing the density that's coming in on Prince. And of course, it's wonderful to have a wedding venue where everybody, including people who, like me, chronically run late to weddings, can pull up at the last second and try to slip in before the bride gets there. But UGA Chapel has no built-in parking, and good luck getting them for a wedding venue. They're booked out 3 years, right? I mean, I think a lot of urban wedding venues don't come with baked-in parking. And so I want to explain our vision here. Our vision here is a community collaborative adherent venue. That means that we understand that we have to not only follow the letter of the law, but the spirit of the law when it comes to noise violations. Right? It's not enough to say, well, we were allowed to. That's fine if it's the college kids who live next door to you that are going to be gone at the end of their lease. But for neighbors that are longtime property owners, when we're next door, they need to be assured that we are proactively looking to increase their comfort. I speaking personally on behalf of Historic Athens, I've been working in the event world since I was 16 years old, and the number one way to get it wrong is to be too noisy. So we're going to be looking at following the noise cutoff time, the decibel levels,
ACC's ordinances on amplified noise make it very clear the distance from the edge of the property line that you should even be able to detect noise. So we're going to be working very clearly on all that. And frankly, because I'm glad that Gwen pointed out the idea that Epting may be a preferred vendor, but not our only vendor, we are only going to coordinate with vendors that help us maintain that reputation. If we have a vendor that violates that, they will be the first to go. And it's going to be very important to us that it's not just about clients, right? Because they're only getting, well, hopefully they're only getting married once, right? Or whatever's happening is only
Twice.
right. Third time's the charm. But the idea here is we don't want to say, oh, we'll leave it up to the client, right? Because that might be their one rental, and that would be us just passing the buck. In our case, what we're saying is we are only going to work with vendors that help us achieve these goals. And we're going to be very upfront with these vendors that the only way they're going to gain access to using the site is if we are following the spirit of that. That includes traffic maintenance, that includes noise maintenance, and as Lee just pointed out, beyond just the immediate property owners behind there, we have a neighbor on site, which is Town and Gown. And we've got to figure out how to coordinate with them well without stepping on their important community events.
Right. And I used to be, president of Town and Gown, and Lee is an old supporter too.
Right.
We really care about Town and Gown, but they're in an impossible situation. They have no insulation, they have no, nothing that
noise
helps them.
ordinance, right.
They're disrupted by people talking in the parking lot, So we've talked with them twice and they recognize that they need to figure out what can be helpful to them. We've made a suggestion, and the thing we looked at, wall hangings that would give them, some, we hope, help, taking up for the insulation that they don't have. Beth knows about that, I know, but,
Well, we want to push, in all honesty, we're pushing to help them in this whole process. It's got to be a whole, the neighborhood, meaning the block. They've got to be supported and they need certain things, and we've got a list, and we're looking into the insulation in there and what can be done, how we can raise money, how we as a partnership can help them be a better community facility.
Yeah.
And we are, another thing you were talking about involving the community. There was a group, young student, if y'all read Seen and Unseen, the book that came out about the Cobb Papers and a black slave that was working for them and the Taylors and their intermarriage and all this, these two families. It's a great book. And the student of the professor that one of the people who put this together wanted to do a movie. And we went to the junior league and wanted $500 and said, they said they had no money. We will start a fund. I said, if we get this place, I will, out of our fund, we've got money already started to save. And I said, you've got your $500.
Right.
So we want to give to the community in that way. And so that kid will be able to make their movie about the Taylor Grady house, and they will get that $500. So that's education, that's bringing students in, that's learning something.
Okay, I'm looking at the time. I want to make sure everybody's questions, keep going
I
around.
told you.
but now you start to reach in.
That's right. That's right. So we'll get, Patrick, I know we went a lot of ways on your questions, but you.
I'm assuming, at the welcome center, because 740 points can fill up really quickly when it comes to U-Hauls and and stuff like that, but y'all have a game plan for moving people around in case parking lots and.
Yeah.
That's equitable and fair for the neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The other thing about neighbors real quick is that, we would have gone out and talked to people, but we knew we had to keep this confidential. So we have not reached out to some of the.
But you're doing fine. You're telling us your plan, and that's what we're here about. We're here about your plan. We don't want to read between the lines. We want you to tell us what's in between the lines and what we may have misinterpreted.
Thank you.
And, beautiful home, very beautiful. I like the history behind it. I like the the aesthetics, the design, the grounds, the grass, the carpets, the renovations, the painting, the kitchen wet bar, the restorations. You guys do a decent job of explaining the type of changes that are going to be made. I don't have that confidence that just from I just don't have the confidence that it's going to be maintained. The changes are going to keep the historic value, the historic nature of the building. So now walk me through that.
I'd like to touch on that. So, in 1967, when you all needed to find the right tenant for the Church Wattle Brumby House,
Welcome Center.
what is now the Welcome Center, we rehabilitated and took charge of that and have maintained and expanded that. When ACC needed the right steward for the Ware Linden collection, decorative collection that's at the Ware Linden House, you trusted us then. When in the 70s it was time to rehabilitate Old Fire Hall #2, you came to us, and we know that's a collaboration. I mean, Beth and I exchange emails. I've exchanged emails with Gavin's department. We know that it's a process. What I can promise you is that every decision we make is going to be informed by preservation best practices consistent with the National Department of the Interior and National Park Service. We're going to be looking for opportunities to maintain that interior, expand that interior, reinterpret that interior. I think tell a fuller story about that interior that talks about some of the things that Lee just alluded to, but also just expands on the interior storytelling. And, on one of our visits to the site, we met the head of the grounds crew there. And it was a great example of what you're alluding to, Commissioner, because just the grounds crew there was just talking about how much he loves the grounds there and how much he cares about the property. And so I think if we can have that kind of passion on the ACC end, on the exteriors, the way we do with our other properties, and you trust us, you give us the keys as you've done in the past to go into the interiors, not a speck of dust will remain. You can come through and do a little white gloves test. I mean, especially I'm talking to not only a county commissioner, but somebody who's an expert in cleanliness, runs a cleaning business. We'll meet your standards professionally and personally at that.
Okay, so there was a mention about the grass covering the front that you explained that.
I can explain that. The guy with name said to me that it's so shadowed, it's so shade.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to get grass to grow there. And so he said that he might look at, there might be some other grass or whatever, but I was very confident in the fact that he was going to do the best job he could with the nature and the way it is in the front yard. It's hard to grow the grass.
There's Bermuda grass that's out there that doesn't require much sunlight. Maybe we could talk about. 'Cause when I read it, it just sounded like I was gonna rip up the grass.
No.
Oh, no.
That's part of it.
No, well, actually, we want it to be beautiful like we do now.
Last question. To make sure that you guys collaborate with Town and Gal, letting them know the events.
Well, actually, Town of Down has already given a 4-year calendar out.
Mhm.
That's
We've
their
got-
part of the partnership that with their co-tenant relationship as far as, knowing when they, and that's a pretty good commitment that they have to their calendar.
Yep.
And sharing that.
But I know that they're always on weekends, it's 33 weekend nights and that's definitely something we're not gonna be able to avoid. What we're going to try to do is accommodate. That's our goal is to do everything we can to let them know that we've done our best. And to, as Tommy said, to limit our partnerships with those people that honor the same goals.
Okay.
Patrick, just super fast, because I know we're counting the time here. One thing is, because I know parking came up twice, one thing that just popped in my head to point out is, how many parking spaces do we have at the Welcome Center? 6. So we currently already manage a site that has 6 parking spaces and 9,000 visitors a year. So we do understand how to kind of navigate those limited parking aspects. The other thing I just wanted to emphasize was, so Narky Norton, who I believe is the president of the town of Gown, recently joined our board this summer. So that's the board I report to. We're already in discussions with them about help celebrating their upcoming anniversary. I don't want one of my board members that I report to angry at me, so there's some vested interest and accountability there too. But it's also a sign, one of the reasons we reached out to Narky is not just because of his community leadership, but because we're looking to build a closer relationship to Town and Gown. And that decision was made before we even decided to apply for this. That was last May.
And we have a partnership with Bulldog. Epton Events has a partnership with Bulldog. They have 2 new trolleys. They're great. We used them last weekend for a wedding on the hill. Fantastic, exciting, look good, an old fashioned look. And so we've got that, and we use that for every wedding that I have.
And managing, and part of the managing of the parking is you're managing sharing the parking.
That's right.
Because Town and Gown
Yeah.
is also, it's their parking lot too.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, the camaraderie that needs to come with that. And Patrick, how's your list going?
As I'm with that, okay. So generally have modest, I would say a modest schedule throughout the year. Couple events, welcome, semi somewhat welcome center for allowing guests to come in or visitors to come in and take a look. So based on our proposal, it looks like you guys are gonna open up the space a little bit more. Keep explaining maintenance, wear and tear, foot traffic, little kid bouncing against the wall.
The space will be fully insured. Things like cleaning and maintenance are going to be built into those rental costs of the revenue. Lee, I'm sure you could expand on that.
Well, we'll have a staff there for the first time. We have the director who will be there. He or she will be in charge of the whole place, won't be there for events or have a representative there at all events. We're lucky enough to have a block away after events. I've got a vested interest in this thing now. So we're not going to let anything happen to what we put money into any more than I would at my place or the cotton press or the hill, the places that I use for events. We'd operate and have a full staff that operates, go up there and take care of the situation, you know. I think the main thing is that we're in the business, you know, we're in the business to run something like this and run several places. So it's just one more place to.
Been very passive, management of the staff. It's not been aggressive at all in reaching out to new groups. That's not gonna happen with this group. We're gonna try to make it, a really, something that we all are proud of and making a profit out of.
We're not looking for anybody coming there to have a hoopla in the house. There'll be certain things you will not be allowed. So you can't have dancing upstairs in the house. You can't, the same things that have been on the league's list forever. I mean, that's what's kept. And we're putting an endowment together to take care of the furniture. I mean, it's worn out. Furniture is gone as far as, you know, fabric and stuff. So we put an endowment and trustees together that will raise money and we'll be putting money back into that stuff.
Our plan is that we will put $40,000 into the second story and the third story, getting them back together and equipping that kitchen and making up some of the other tools and equipment. And we need your assistance to make the first floor the dream that we have and to really make those new resources there for the first time that causes that excitement and understanding that this is a different scene.
If I could, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm trying
Yeah.
to make sure we get down there to your all's,
On that
do it this
note,
way.
I'm sorry I gotta be the one to ask it, but representing the government, some of these tough questions that are ultimately gonna be the decision of the mayor and commission. The question is ultimately going to come up. Can you still fulfill this proposal in some capacity if you are not given the funding for those repairs, or if it lands within the schedule that's already outlined in your proposal to get started?
We will bring it up to where it is today with the second and third stories. We're willing to do what was there. But we recognize that it's not going to be as accessible, as flexible to deal with different levels without that first story. We think that first story is the real secret to reviving Taylor Grady as a true community center. So it is an investment that we hope that you'll collaborate with us on the vision.
Yeah, Gavin, that question, the first part, I've got a mental tab up and trying to answer that first question, the what if we had to do it all on our own, because that is harder to imagine. Mm-hmm. My immediate answer to the second question, though, is we understand. You're not going to be able to, you're not a landlord, and this isn't a quick apartment that you're throwing a can of paint on before the next college student moves in. We know that some of this work is going to need to happen in stages. And, Lee has a clear vision on some of the quicker things that we can do that will change the sense of place in a positive way. And some of that is just paint, right? But whether it's Patrick's questions about grass or other things, these things are going to have to happen in stages where it's going to be a long partnership. And yeah, there's no doubt that some of this is going to happen overlapping with some of the events that we're booking. We'll work with your office to schedule it out, I think in an expeditious fashion, but also in a reasonable fashion.
Along with it, I want to say that no, I can't do all those things. I don't have the funds to do all those things, to fulfill the thing, if we don't have some kind of, it's either going to be a long, drawn-out process, or we're going to have to work together. What I want to emphasize is the business that's going to make the thing go right now is the event business. We're losing the fall. You got fall and you got spring. You have nothing in the summertime in the event business in Athens, Georgia. You have nothing to speak of in the winter for something like this, comparatively speaking. So we need the fall, which we've lost most of it already, as fast as possible. We need everybody will be engaged in Thanksgiving and a week from now and over Christmas. That's when the wedding thing, that's the main thing that we've got going right now until we develop this other stuff. If you miss this by not being able to advertise and promote this in the next few weeks, even if we're gambling on it, if we miss this opportunity, we're into next fall, a year from now, because everybody will get engaged. They will plan their weddings. We'll book up every place in town. We'll book up in January, from December through January. Everywhere's booked up. And then you missed it because they're already somewhere else. So that's the reason. And the one thing that we need is that paint, that red paint needs to be changed to bright and inviting.
Right.
Something that's exciting and inviting. That is the one thing upstairs. We can get the furniture done. We can get the place, I mean, it's fine shape, physical shape. It's not a matter of that. It's aesthetics. Outside looks great. It's not things you can't do better. But we've got to get that thing painted, and we've got to get the furniture. We are working on the furniture right now, one way or the other. We're gambling on that. I've already cleaned the rugs inside. So we are gambling on that to save that part of it. We need it painted and then if we can work on how we do downstairs,
That's right.
that can drag out.
Right. Okay.
Okay, I think that,
I have a question when we get to, you're talking about the catering. Are you going to allow your caterers to cook at the Taylor Grady house?
We do not allow, what we do is we bring in, when I say cooking, We had never cooked anywhere to speak of, unless we grilled something outside. We heat and reheat, saute, make a sauce or something, that type of thing. But we don't cook, finish off a sauce. But we do not cook.
So you don't use a stove or an oven or anything
No,
like
you
that?
use a stove and an oven, you reheat, like in an oven type thing, or you do bread, finish off bread. Same thing we do at Botanical Gardens, at every other, down at y'all's place. No, we don't. The chicken is cooked before it gets there, the roast beef is all cooked before it gets there. You bring it up to temperature, you bring it in hot boxes and finish it off. Now, what we do want to do, this brings into the community, we want to outfit that kitchen so that, this is just an idea that we have, to bring in the other restaurants in town, that if they don't have a private room at restaurants, so they don't have a private room, but they've got 12 people that need to have a meeting and want them to do the food, they could bring in upstairs and bring their food just like we do, finish it off and have a fine dinner and a pop-up event,
And I know we're running low on time. Any notes like this, like let's say that you have a standard policy for your fleet of buildings. We are very open to what your preferred policies would be. I also, in case it's the last oxygen I get, I've made a mistake today, which is I didn't properly acknowledge Alex, and I just want to make sure that we're doing that. It's really meaningful for us. This decorative collection was curated in partnership with the Sam's family. To have Alex here with us is a real incredible asset, and I think speaks to how unique that collection is and how important it is to the future and how important it is we don't burn it up by lighting a kitchen on fire or things like that. But I felt like we didn't acknowledge Alex, and so I wanted to correct that.
I don't cook in my own bathroom.
Does your budget for the, second and third floors, does that cover purchasing appliances and stuff like that?
Yes, it covers the kitchen equipment
Okay,
and it covers the upholstery and the repairs and does not cover the painting of that entrance and the stairwell. And that is a big problem. Junior League is the first to admit it.
So who would pay for that?
We're hoping you will.
What was the last painting date?
We painted the Taylor Braden house, in FY 20, so it's not due again until FY 26.
But that's the outside,
Inside.
inside. Oh, wow, yeah, they probably asked for it. Evidently, they went back.
They
to
asked
the
for
original.
it. It's the wrong color.
Right.
It kills the rental of the Taylor Grading. Just that hall.
Gotcha. I want to make sure everybody, I'm not trying to get us out early, I'm trying to get us sufficiently using and making sure we have what we need for further discussions.
Okay.
Sounds good.
You're good? Ladies?
I'm good.
I guess one last question that I just want clarification on, and it goes back to what Gavin had asked. On all the renovations and repairs that y'all had mentioned on page 17 and 18 of your proposal, those are renovations that y'all are wanting Athens-Clarke County government to fund, or are those renovations and repairs that y'all are wanting, would that be a joint effort, or how are those going to be funded?
The ones on 17.
That's the new bathrooms,
Yes, that's, yeah,
everything.
yeah. That is mostly the downstairs, except for the backs and the chimneys. It just addresses some normal things. On the other side, it starts at the top on page 18 as the first floor. And what we tried to very clearly identify what we felt like. And right now, as you're working down there, and y'all are doing great, by the way, but I know that you can't go any further than normal, preparation. And so that's
Well,
why we put this down.
I think Beth is just trying to ascertain who's footing the bill for
Yes,
17.
Right, if that's a part of your 40, or the first floor.
You're 40.
Right. The 40,000 that we've asked for you to contribute to the project. The budget is,
The 40,000 for the whole recommended changes on the first floor.
That's right.
The first floor, the outer kitchen,
Mhm.
the bathrooms, to make the first floor
What you described.
what we described.
Right, right.
Yes, a little bit more than 40.
Now,
Spend a lot.
but we're willing to work with you on, we have connections that have helped him do this in so many ways. And we believe that we have the kind of community support that we, can work with this.
I just want to say, last week I was meeting with Bob Carson, who's our financial advisor. Many of you probably know Bob, and this topic came up, and we're not talking about it publicly, but I answered a few questions, and that's fine. Yes, hi Al, hi everyone. But I'll just say that I mean that we're not discussing this. We're not shouting from the mountaintops. We're doing this.
Right.
But just his response was a good example of how much community support we expect to be. Lee's goal is to start, as he mentioned, an endowment. We expect a lot of private support. We expect a lot of in-kind support. Keep in mind, every year for 55 years, we've been giving out preservation awards. A lot of those are to contractors, interior designers, folks like that. So our hope is to offset as much of this as possible through our network. But those are the things we think need to be done in order to make it turnkey ready.
Yeah, I think y'all are hearing some of our concerns that if we're not able to bring forward that funding as ACC Gov, if that's not something we can commit to, we just want to make sure y'all are still interested in the building. That's not predicated on having that first floor finished.
As long as you get it painted. So I can start renting.
Paint's important. Also, look at, when you're looking at these costs and how we're set to endure them, especially given it's going to take about a full quarter of a year to really get rentals going. So even if you gave it to us today, it would be a while before we'd have that revenue stacked. It's why Historic Athens staff member isn't set to even begin until March, and that was if we were starting in December. I just want to acknowledge that the community benefit agreement here and the rent is going to be one way that we can also help offset us footing some of those bills. So, one of the question marks that we're not going to get at this meeting that we're all over here huddled up wondering is what the rent bill is going to be. And ultimately, you all will decide that. But as you're factoring what you can and cannot do inside the space, the rental cost is another way to help us afford other things.
Right, and that's where the community community benefit agreement comes in, because that's what you're bringing to this partnership, your side of the partnership. You're the community engagement. And the private part is making money, and we want to improve the community benefit agreement, which I think everybody's saying they want as well. More questions? Because I have a couple things I wanted to get before we meet again. One was if you guys could send us paperwork that is speaks to that parking arrangement that you have with the doctor office that's now for sale.
Mm-hmm.
And then, Tommy, if you wouldn't mind, I'm interested in seeing what a sample of your rental agreements that you have. You said that you do rental of your current space, and
We
it seems
did,
like that would be a neat, interesting for me to see because you talk about, you put fees and insurance and descriptions that speak to how that property is being used. That would give me a glance as to how your arrangements look for a sublease, but which is basically a sublease.
Sure.
Because you're our tenant.
Can I ask, we will absolutely send that over. We're actually in the process, Jody and I, of revising that based actually on the rental contract format that is used with the pharmacy at the Morton Theater. So I'd love to send you the version we're likely to adopt within the next 30 days, just because it does exactly what you're describing. We actually are still having to get better at itemizing things. I can show you the old one and the new one, but I think it'll give you a sense of like.
Give us what your working model on that.
Okay.
That'll give us additional information. If the committee is good on any more questions, we are gonna do a doodle poll to see when we can meet the evaluation committee or group somewhere on the 14th, 15th, and 16th. Cynthia's gonna put out a doodle poll to see when we can meet. So if we have some of that paperwork.
Yeah.
And then we'll have that. We have a hand in the back. Yes, Alex?
I don't know if I'm allowed to speak for the.
You are when the chair recognizes you, so yes.
And again, I'm Alex Sands, I'm interim manager of Taylor Grady House for the proposal. I'm listed on proposals. But I did want to make sure, that really is understood by y'all that there will be a committee, like a board with a chair, that will work with the Historic Athens and Epping. So it's not going to be a matter of Lee and Tommy doing this all over the place and we're diving in and me coming in with an idea. There'll be an official board with an official chair. That chair will be also a member of the Historic Athens Board of Trustees as well, as I understand. So that is what I'm sort of visioning as a little bit of glue in the middle or filling the margin in that will make sure that it can say, hey, Lee, what's going on with this? Tommy, what are y'all thinking here? And also finding more, and they're going to be doing the fundraising as well. So I just want to make sure.
I also want to share that your all's proposal, in my mind, I believe from our committee is private. We can't speak to, you can speak to what you sent us. We ask questions because we can't speak to what it's your intellectual property, so to speak. But so I think that it would be appropriate for us to have a summary of what you're talking about.
Yes.
Because that sounds like something that would, we should know about.
Yeah, that's, there's
So
parts
you
of that.
sent us that,
proposal that we
and
can-
you know,
Page 31.
okay. So that's good to know. And 31, that's capturing what you're talking about.
Yeah, there's an illustration of that flow chart too.
And then, so that you guys know, we're gonna be meeting somewhere and it'll be published once we doodle it down to when we can meet. And that's the 14, 15, 16, so you'll know sending us those other two ideas.
Wow.
You've got that time.
Yeah. Allison, I just have to say, I can't believe I didn't notice this sooner, but it feels like such a funny twist of fate that every time I look at Allison, right behind Allison is the Taylor Grady House and the Welcome Center. Like, yeah, there we go.
Cool.
Right.
All right, so,
If you have to extend the resolution, that is over on the 18th, we would just appreciate, and if Tammy Gillen were here today, she will confirm that they would love to be able to give us the right to have events when we could start now, to start doing the small things that we might be able to do in one place or another. My neighborhood association would like to donate money to be able to meet there for their Christmas party, things like this, minor, little, tiny things.
I think we'll struggle to be able to allow something to happen like that without a contract.
Oh, okay.
And so I think our focus is, from the property committee is going to be to find that group to like enter into a contract with. If you're speaking to the actual property extension and the storage agreement we have, Gavin and I think we could extend that administratively. Mayor Commission voted to give you all a sizable time period. And so Mayor Commission is behind that. If we have a better sense on the timeline in terms of the potential for a contract, then we can administratively just lengthen that, just have to talk with the attorney's office. But we think we can figure out how to extend that. But what you're asking is really, we require an agenda item to go back to Mayor and Commission to give approval to something, and we'd rather just handle the contract that way.
right, so you're asking to go ahead and start having events?
Well, just to be able to introduce, we're gonna be fundraising, we gotta raise that $50,000. So we'd like to have people that can come through, that we'd like to,
You know how slow the government works.
I can't imagine.
But we do have to do everything in the manner of which we are
accustomed.
Well, we
Allow.
I think it's part of the work, because somebody, we're trying to work with that.
Okay.
And with that, looking for a motion. I approve that motion, I'll second it, and we'll vote to adjourn if nobody else objects. All right, we're good to go, and thank you guys so much. This is so much better than the paper.
Thank you.
I mean, the paper was good. Oh, yeah, all that kind of stuff, but I wanted to, I didn't capture, Alex, what you had said